A very good morning to all my dear students. We have successfully completed Unit 1 and we are starting with Unit 2. When I speak about Unit 2, there are three parts to be covered. The first part of Unit 2 speaks about the fundamental rights of a citizen. The second part speaks about the directive principles of the state policy. And the third part of the unit speaks about the fundamental duties. So, accordingly, we are going to move in the same chronological order. And we are starting with a very interesting topic, which is called or titled as Fundamental Rights. Just to give you the introduction, students, what happened is during the struggle for independence, our freedom fighters raised voice against human rights violations. That means the human rights of a citizen were being violated. And these were also being deprived. So what happened is every citizen of the country was being deprived of basic political, civil, and economic rights. And these rights were in the hands of the foreign rulers. So, what happened is our country, our, or you can say our constitutional framers, said that it is very important to incorporate fundamental rights in the constitution of our country. And the constitutional framers of the country were aware that, or you can say, were aware of the fact that if these civil rights or civil life are not given or implemented to the citizens of the country, the life of a citizen could become meaningless. Hence, they ensured that every citizen of the country, irrespective of any caste, creed, religion, language he belongs, should get these fundamental rights or should have these fundamental rights. So, for this purpose, what happened is the constitution of our country guarantees to all the citizens of the country basic fundamental rights. These are basic freedoms given to the citizen of the country, and they ensure that every citizen belonging to the territory of our country can avail these rights. So, before understanding which are the different articles which speaks about fundamental rights, let us first understand what is the meaning of a fundamental rights. So when I speak about the meaning of fundamental rights, students, these are certain basic, these are certain universal, these are certain sacrosanct rights. These are the rights of a human being without which there is no meaning to the human life. When I speak about these fundamental rights, students, these are considered to be very much basic in nature. They are universal. Universal means uniformly applied to each and every citizen. Every citizen can avail this fundamental rights. And when I speak about the term sacrosanct, it means that these fundamental rights are based on certain principles. These sacrosanct rights means these are the rights which are attached to some sort of values. They are routinous in nature. So when I speak about this fundamental rights, students, without this fundamental rights, the life of human being has no meaning. So such rights given to the human beings are called as human rights. The rights which are basic, the rights which are universal, that means uniformly followed, the rights which has basic principles, basic values. These rights are being confirmed and incorporated and given to every citizen of the country so that every citizen has some meaning towards his life. And such rights are called as human rights. Now, when I speak about the term human rights, I will explain you all in a simple language what are human rights. Students, when I speak about human rights can generally be defined as those rights which are inherent in nature and without which we cannot live a life which is meaningful. Hence, what happens when I speak about human rights, students? These human rights try to preserve human liberty, or you can say human freedom, and they also develop human personality. So, students, when I speak about this human rights, these rights are so fundamental that if they are not given to any individual, the very existence of this human beings becomes meaningless. So I told you, when I speak about human rights, these are the rights which give meaning to humans. So what happened is, most of the countries, especially democratic countries of the world, all over the world, you can say, have recognized these rights and they have given them a status of fundamental rights. And these have been incorporated in every country's respective constitution. So when I speak about this human rights, students, which gives meaning to the human life, countries thought that they would adopt this human rights and they could give them a separate status. And they thought of giving them a status of fundamental rights, which are considered to be very much basic in nature. And every country, or most of the countries in the world, adopted this human rights in the form of fundamental rights and incorporated or included in their respective constitutions of their own world or own country. Next, when I speak about these fundamental rights, let us understand now, or let us now concentrate on the word fundamental rights. Now, when I speak about fundamental rights, students, I told you these are some human rights which gives meaning or which develops the personality of the humans. or you can say they give liberty or they give freedom to human beings. Thus, these are the rights, not all human rights, huh? Only some of the rights that are recognized by the state and which are enshrined or incorporated in the constitution of the country are called as fundamental rights. So you have to understand here that fundamental rights basically are the human rights. And when I speak about human rights, there are only some human rights which are recognized by the country. These rights are incorporated in the constitution of the country, and these have been given a separate status. How are they given separate status? They have been given separate status by incorporating in the constitution of the country, and the human rights which are recognized by the country and incorporated in the constitution are called as fundamental rights. Students, when I speak about this fundamental rights, you have to clearly understand that, or it must be noted that only those and those human rights that are recognized by the state or the country as fundamental, as basic, as universal, as sacrosanct, these rights which are recognized by the state and which are incorporated in the constitution, only these are called as fundamental rights. So, very importantly, all human rights are not fundamental rights. I'm repeating it again and again. The human rights which are recognized, and you can say meaning of recognition is they have been given a separate status and they have included in the constitution of the country, only those rights are called as fundamental rights. Next, when I speak about the nature of fundamental rights, students, you can say in other words that all fundamental rights are regarded to be the human rights. But very importantly, you should understand that all human rights are not fundamental rights. There is a difference. All fundamental rights can be certainly human rights, but some of the human rights which are recognized, which have been given a separate status and incorporated in the constitution of the country, only those human rights are being regarded as fundamental rights. So you have to understand that all fundamental rights are human rights, but human rights which are recognized, which are enshrined, which are incorporated, which are included in the constitution of the country, only those are being regarded as the fundamental rights of the country. So when I speak about the nature of fundamental rights, students, the word fundamental only will suggest you that these are so fundamental, these are so important that the constitution of a country has separately listed them and have given a separate status, you can say separate provisions for their protection. So when I speak about this fundamental rights, students, or nature of fundamental rights, the fundamental rights are so very important that The Constitution itself ensures that they are not being violated by any citizen. They are not being violated by any other country. They are not even being violated by the government of the country. So when I speak about fundamental rights, these are considered to be very, very important because they have given a separate status, separate recognition, which protects the citizens of the country. So when I speak about the nature of fundamental rights, students, fundamental rights are different from other rights which are available to the citizens of the country. While when I speak about ordinary legal rights, students, these legal rights are being protected, are being enforced by the ordinary law existing in the country. But when I speak specifically about fundamental rights, these have been given a separate status. These are being protected, these are being guaranteed, and these have been incorporated in the constitution of the country. Hence, when I speak about this fundamental rights, students, these are considered to be a very important right which is given or which is ensured by the constitution of our country. So, in our initial stage of our unit, we understood what is the meaning of fundamental rights and what is the nature and why it was being introduced. So, once more, I will tell you that students, when I speak about fundamental rights, these are the human rights, and these human rights have been recognized or they have been incorporated and enshrined in the constitution of our country. And very importantly, these are the human rights which have been given a separate status by the country. And it is very important to know that these are fundamental in nature. These are important, these are basic, these are universal in nature. So let us now understand which are the different fundamental rights given to the citizens of the country. So, to make it a little bit easy, I have divided the fundamental rights, or I have given you a picture wherein you will clearly understand while writing which article speaks about fundamental rights, or you can say what are the different classification of fundamental rights. Now, students, when I speak about classification of fundamental rights, the fundamental rights have been incorporated in the constitution of a country right from Article 14 to Article 32. So, all these articles speak specially or concentrate specially regarding a citizen's fundamental rights. When I speak about Article 14 to 18, it speaks about right to equality. When I speak about Article 19 to 21, it speaks about right to freedom. When I speak about Article 23 and 24, it speaks about right against exploitation. When I speak about Article 25 to 28, it speaks about right to freedom of religion. When I speak about Article 29 and 30, it speaks about cultural and educational rights. And when I speak about Article 32, it speaks about right to constitutional remedies. So this covers the first part of Unit 2. Like this, we have to understand what are the directive principles of state policy, which are the articles included there, and we are going to speak about fundamental duties in the last part. Students, let us now understand in detail what each article speaks right from Article 14 to Article 32. We are going to speak in detail regarding each article, what the article states, and what is the objective of the constitutional framers to incorporate this fundamental right in the constitution of our country. Okay, so hereafter, for about 3 to 4 classes, we are going to just speak about this several articles. Okay, so let's start with the first classification, which starts from Article 14 to Article 18. The first classification speaks about right to equality. So we are going to study today what Article 14 speaks about. Students, when I speak about Article 14, Article 14 states that there should be equality before law. It means that equality is considered to be one of the basic element of democracy. Now, when I speak about the right to equality, it means that equality in all the forms, equality in terms of legal forms, equality in terms of civil form, equality in terms of social forms. So, when I speak about Article 14, students, Article 14 declares that, first I will read the article, then I will explain you all. Article 14 declares that the state shall not deny to any person equality before the law or the equal protection of the laws within the territory of India. So, this is the article of the Constitution. This article speaks about equality. It clearly mentions, Article 14 clearly mentions that there should be equality before law. In simple language, students, it means that there is supremacy of law and no person or nobody is above law. All the people in the country, all the citizens in the country are subjected to same law and the same court of laws. Whether you are rich, whether you are poor, whether you are male, whether you're female, you are a professional, whether you're literate, whether you're illiterate, there is no discrimination. All the citizens in our country are subjected to the same laws and there is supremacy of law. So when I speak about Article 14, students, you have to understand that Article 14 speaks about two things. Just for your understanding, I have subdivided this article. Article 14 speaks about equality before law, the first part of the article. And secondly, it speaks about equal protection of law or equal protections of laws. Now, students, when I speak about Article 14, in the first go, let us understand what is equality before law. According to me, equality before law has been considered by the citizens of the country in a very negative way, or they are understanding it as a negative concept. Because when I speak about equality of or equality before law, students, it implies that there is absence or there is no special privilege which is given to any individual or any citizen of the country. When I speak about equality before law, students, it means that all the citizens should be treated alike. All the individuals in the country should be treated equally. It means that among the equals, the law should be equal and it should be equally administered, equally monitored, and equally incorporated also. When I speak about equality, students, it means that no man is above law. And when I speak about equality, you can say that everybody in the country or every individual in the country are subjected to the same ordinary laws of the land. This means that there is no discrimination, there is no division made among the individuals or the citizens of the country. Whether you're a president of a country or you're a peon of a country, it does not matter. The hierarchy from the topmost level to the operational level is equal before the law. Every individual is answerable to his or her own acts. There is no special privilege which is given to any individuals of the country. And it states that every individual is regarded to be equal before law. Law is considered to be supreme, and hence there is no special privilege, no special favoritism which is given to any citizen of the country. So this is the first part of the article. Next, I have divided the article accordingly, which speaks about equality or equal protection of law. Now, when I speak about equal protection of law, surely it is considered as a positive concept because the country should ensure that there is equality of treatment, there is equality of laws, and every individual of the country is subjected to the ordinary law of the land. Now, when I speak about equality or protection of law, students, what happens is you can say that there is equal law which is applied or should be applied with an equal hand to every citizen of the country, and the country is obliged to protect all the individuals in the country equally. No citizen in the country is being given a separate status. When I speak about equality or equal protection of law, students, this has been implied by the country, which means that there should be equal treatment given by the state or by the country to every individual of the country. And the individuals of our country, you can say that, accepts or expects a positive action from the country wherein there is no favoritism made, there is no discrimination made among the individuals, or you can say that there is no special privilege given to any citizens. So this is very easy article. You can understand it very easily. The word itself tells you that when I speak about equality, students, equality before law, which means that the people or the citizens of the country should be treated equally, should be administered equally, and no person should be considered above law. There should be no favoritism, there should be no privilege, no special privilege given to any citizen. And when I speak about the equality or protection of law, it is from the country's side, or the country is implying it, wherein it ensures that the country should take positive actions in which there should be treatment of equality given to all the citizens of the country, and ordinary law should be applied to each and every citizen of the country. So when I speak about equality of law or equality before law, the article clearly states that the country or the state shall not deny any person equality before law. It means that every person will be protected in the hands of law, and every individual will be given a separate status wherein they will not be discriminated. There will be no special preference. There will be no special treatment given to any individuals, and the country will see to it that all the individuals in the country are treated equally or alike. Next, when I speak about Article 15, this is also a very interesting article, students. When I speak about Article 15, the Article 15 states that prohibition of discrimination on the grounds of religion, on the grounds of race, caste, sex, or place of birth. Recently, there was a movie on this article, a very beautiful movie which incorporated Article 15 and gave a wonderful meaning how discrimination takes place and how it should be prohibited. So, when I speak about Article 15, students, the constitution of our country states that there should be no discrimination, there should be no division which should be made on the grounds of, first of all, the religion, second, race, third, caste, fourth, sex, and the fifth, place of birth. So, when I speak about this article, students, the government cannot discriminate among men and women, that is basically on sex, gender, that is between males and females. Both must enjoy equal status in all sort of benefits. Now here Article 15 states further that, or prohibits that, there are special rights which are given to the citizens of the country, and no citizen can be denied of those rights, such as every citizen should have access to shops, public restaurants, hotels, and places of public entertainment. Access means what? Their entry should not be stopped on the basis of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. They should be allowed to enter into any shops, public restaurants, hotels, places of public entertainment. Nobody should be deprived of this right, or Every citizen should have the right of use of wells, tanks, bathing ghats, roads, places of public resort maintained wholly or maintained partly out of the state funds or dedicated to the use of general public. So what happens is these are being administered, these are being protected, or they are incorporated, or they are started and managed by the government of our country. So what happens is wholly they are managed or partly they may be managed. So hence any citizen belonging to any religion, any race, any caste, sex, or place of birth, if he is a citizen of a country, you cannot prohibit that person from having the access towards it. There should be no discrimination. There should be no division made on the basis of religion, race, caste, sex, and place of birth. Students, when I speak about this right, which is incorporated in Article 15, it is very, very important because when we recall that, or when we recall the days before independence, people from lower castes were not allowed to take water from public wells. They were not even served in the public restaurants. They were not being allowed to walk on the roads during the daytime. And hence, there was discrimination which was prevailing during those times. So, all these were considered as the ill practices which were going on in the country. And hence, the framers of the constitution thought that they should remove this, and they can only remove it by incorporating an article which gives a separate status and protects the individual of or citizen of a country wherein no citizen will be discriminated or divided on the basis of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. Now, when I speak about state giving special provisions to women and children, SCs and STs, that is scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, and socially and economically backward classes, students, what happened is the Article 15 also states that there should be no discrimination and a separate status should be given to women and children, SCs and STs, and scheduled tribes, STs. Why? Because, or you can say socially or economically backward classes. Because when I speak about these three divisions, historically, these categories of people have suffered immensely. These have suffered a lot in the past. So, what happened is the government of our country thought that it is very important to incorporate this right and give a separate provision or a separate status so that the government can protect the rights of the individual, and in order to uplift them, the government tried to make several provisions, students. For example, you must be knowing that there are reservations or reserved seats which are given in, you can say, educational institutes for these types of categories. They are being also given reserved seats in terms of employment. And it is very important that the government thought that there was a need to uplift all these three categories because there was a lot and a lot of discrimination which was happening to these three categories. And hence, the government incorporated Article 15, wherein no individual could be discriminated on the basis of caste, religion, creed, language, place of birth, etc. Next, when I speak about the next article, which speaks about Article 16, wherein there is equality of opportunity in matters of public employment. Students, when I speak about Article 16, the constitution of our country lays down that the state cannot discriminate anyone in terms of public appointment. Wherein, when I speak about public appointment, employment or appointment, you can say that here public employment means these are the institutions or the governments which are solely controlled or managed by the government of the country. And every citizen in our country can apply for these government jobs. The state cannot make any sort of discrimination or give any favoritism to any person on the basis of or on the grounds of religion, caste, sex, creed, place of birth, resident. This article is very simple. It speaks about equality in the matters of public employment or appointment. But there are some sort of exceptions towards it. Such exceptions are, first one is domicile in the area. Students, when I speak about domicile, the parliament can enact a law wherein certain jobs can be applied only by the applicants who are domiciled in the area. In simple words, I'll give you one example. Now you're applying for a post of Karnataka. Then what happened is you should be a person residing in Karnataka, and very importantly, you should be knowing the state language, that is Kannada. And hence, if you fill in this criteria, you will be appointed in those public areas. Okay. Next, there are reservations for the members of OBC, the state STs and STs. And what happens is the state says that there are several seats which are reserved for the members of backward classes, SCs, STs, which are not adequately presented in the service under state, wherein others can apply who are of other caste. So, wherein there are also reservations given to the members of OBC, SCs, and STs at the time of promotion also. Now, I told you the reason behind incorporating this. During those, or you can say in the past, they have suffered a lot, and hence the constitution of a country thought to incorporate this right. So, in our today's class, we spoke about Article 14, Article 15, and Article 16. Okay. We have to speak about Article 17 and Article 18, which has now been abolished. But in simple words, I'll at least tell you all what this article means. That Article 16, sorry, Article 17 and 18. Okay. In our today's class, we spoke about, or we started Unit 1, wherein we spoke about what is the meaning of fundamental rights, why have been those introduced, what is the meaning of fundamental rights, definition of fundamental rights, and then the nature of fundamental rights. With this, I conclude my today's class. We shall speak about different articles in my next class. Okay? I need 3 to 4 classes only to speak about fundamental rights. Thank you. Have a good day.